Hello again. Good to be with you again this week. Hopefully, we are turning the corner here on this pandemic, and hopefully, sometime in May, we'll be able to see each other face to face instead of just virtually this way. But I encourage you to just keep hanging in there and trusting God, and we'll be able to get through this. You probably had a similar kind of experience. It may have happened when you were listening to a sermon or reading a passage of scripture or some devotional when suddenly the words jumped off the page or they simply rolled off from the pastor's lips and directly into your heart. It was almost as if the words were meant just for you. Everything else disappeared. It was just those words, God and you. God's Spirit had somehow ignited those words and allowed them to penetrate deep into your soul. And you knew that you had just heard from God. Well, in the past month or so, one of the things Gloria and I have been doing to kind of occupy ourselves is that we've watched the 8-part series entitled The Chosen. It's a retelling of the life and ministry of Jesus. It's really an excellent series that can be watched for free on YouTube, and I highly recommend it. And in episode 8, there's a scene where Jesus was just beginning his journeys with his disciples. He had just called this group around him, and he told them that he was going to move. They were going to be traveling from Galilee in the north to Judea in the south. And immediately the disciples started to give him some routes, traveling routes, so as to avoid the region of Samaria. But Jesus told them that they were actually going to be passing right through Samaria because he had some kingdom work that needed to be done there. One by one, the disciples told him why that was a bad idea. Suddenly, Jesus stops the mid-sentence and says, "Did you join me for safety reasons? If we are going to have a question and answer time every time we do something that you don't like or that you are not used to, it's going to be a very annoying time for all of us. Now, follow me." Now, in a split second, as I watched that scene, in a split second, there I was with those disciples being chastened by Jesus. For I had been questioning his decision making and his direction for my life. What he was doing didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, and I was advocating a better plan. But then the words from that character who played Jesus caught me up short. Did you join me? Are you following me simply for safety reasons? If we are going to have a question and answer, if you are going to challenge me every time that we do something that you don't like, every time I ask you to do something that you don't understand, it's going to be a very annoying and frustrating time for the two of us. Whoa. I needed to hear those words from the Lord. I needed to be reminded that he was the rabbi and I am the student, that he is the sovereign Lord and I am his humble, finite servant. The suffering servant Job had a similar come to Jesus moment in his life when he continually approached the Lord with a whole series of questions about what God was doing in his life. And then for 4 straight chapters, God himself responded to Job's questions by telling Job who he was, reminding him of who he was talking to. And then finally, Job responds in chapter 42 by saying, "I know, Lord, that you can do anything and that no one can stop you. You asked, who is it that questions my wisdom? It is I. I was talking about things that I really didn't understand. I was saying things far too wonderful for me. I take back everything that I said, and I sit in dust and ashes to show my remorse. You see, Job was humble. He doesn't challenge or question or resist God anymore. Instead, he humbly submits to God's will and God's way. And now it was time for me to do the same. To say, along with the disciples from that movie, The Chosen, that it was time for me to also say, yes, Lord, as you wish. Or to pray along with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, not my will, but yours be done. I pray that God will give each one of you ears to hear and a heart to respond in faith when he comes calling, when he speaks to you. Have a great week following the Lord.